So welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes and challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this afternoon, I'm delighted that we have with us Lucy Williams, who's co-founder at BeSure Events. So Lucy, thank you for spending a bit of time with us. If you'd like to introduce yourself, BeSure Events, what you do, how you help people, that would be wonderful.
Great, thanks for having me, Chris. So yes, I am Lucy Williams, co-founder of BeSure Events. I am one of three co-founders, so I can't take any or all of the credit actually because I am one of three. So BeSure Events is a corporate events agency. We specialise in conferences and incentives, and that's both in the UK and overseas. So we basically help our clients to deliver the event, the experience that they are looking for. So we work towards a specific event brief, whether that's a product launch for a new product, for a client in their warehouse facility, or if it's a conference for 200 people overseas. So we sort of work to specific event briefs and deliver to the needs of our clients, essentially.
Brilliant. And you mentioned when we were talking that you've got both national and international clients, but
Mhm.
you'd very much like to work with some local Yorkshire clients if that was possible, if anyone's watching that would like to learn a little bit more about what you do.
Absolutely, yes. So our client base is really vast, to be honest. I mean, anyone and everybody who runs events, we're happy to support, whether that's a small incentive for a 10-person sales team all the way up to a 500-person exhibition. So um,
Wales.
yeah, we'd absolutely love to work a bit more locally. We actually worked with Active Bradford recently on
Oh, great.
an
Yeah,
event in a sports awards dinner a couple of months ago, and that was one of the few that we did locally, and it hits different. It hits a
yeah.
little bit different when it's a business, or you're supporting the local community that
Brilliant.
you're from, or that the business is based from. So yeah, we like that.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So maybe if you tell us a little bit more about your background, how you got into business and why this particular one for you.
Okay, so my background it was never really business. It was never meant to be business. But I think most people say that, don't they? That they
A lot of
fall
people do.
into the career
Yes.
or the business that they're into. So it was events, really. It was always events. I started working in sports events many, many lifetimes ago, and just fell in love with it. I fell in love with the buzz of being on site for an event, seeing something from set up to a project to a finish and seeing the end result. And that
Yeah.
was the thing that gave me the buzz. And I did a lot of on site in muddy fields and,
Brilliant.
races and schools, and sort of started at the nitty gritty of events, I would say. What we often call it in the office is the bogs and bins,
Yeah.
like the stuff
Yeah.
the stuff that happens behind the scenes that nobody actually sees but are equally important.
Brilliant.
So yeah, I sort of started in those kind of events and moved through and into the corporate world, and I found myself in the corporate world in what I would call my dream job. I was traveling all over the world, running conferences and incentives for clients, and getting to go and do and see amazing things with some amazing people. And then the dreaded C word came along, which I think impacted everyone on a different level. So COVID hit, and events stopped overnight, and they stopped with an immediate stop. There was no sort of future, no one sort of knew what was going to
Yeah.
happen. So everyone was made redundant, essentially, like a lot of the
Right.
industry was made redundant. And I was one of those people
Yeah.
that sort of fell within that from the large agency I was at before. Um, and myself, Katie and Natalie, the other two co-founders, we were friends before, we'd sort of had conversations before, there was a bit of an idea before,
Yeah.
and I guess we just sort of came together and had the conversation of no one's going to hire us anytime soon. And
Yes.
I would never say that I, I think all three of us would say that COVID was the little nudge over the edge that we needed, because I think it's really difficult for anybody to sort of leave a full-time, well-paid salaried job to go, I'm going to go and start my own business, and I had no idea where it's going to go from. I
Yeah.
think it takes like a lot to do that. So COVID was our little nudge to do that, and we
Yes.
sort of were like, what have we got to lose? So it was never really, I want to be a business owner. It was, I want to do events and I can't do it the way I was doing it before. So let's
Brilliant.
try this other way. And here we are, we're just coming up to next month will be our 4th birthday of
Wonderful.
BeSure. So yeah, that's sort of a bit of a background of how we got to where we are today. Missing quite a lot out, but you get the
Wonderful. Oh, well, it's interesting how, these things have, these events happen. Funny enough, I was made redundant from my first job actually over in Manchester. That's why I moved to Yorkshire to join a business that I ended up being a owner director of and ultimately growing and selling. So if that event had happened, I don't know whether
Mhm.
I would have got into business in the way I have. So
Things line up as they should, really, don't they? And I
yeah,
think sometimes we have to trust that, because at the time I felt like my whole world
yes,
had caved in, and I was like, well, who am I? What am I going to do? Like, this is the worst thing that could have happened. But then, you have to
yeah,
kind of go with it a bit sometimes and trust the process, don't you?
yep,
Because actually, like, without COVID, I'd never be where I am today. And I think in the last 4 years, if you think of all the things you do and you never thought you would do as a business
yep,
owner, you learn a lot of it as you go along, don't you? Because like I say, it was
absolutely,
always events and never business. So
yep. Absolutely. And going even further back, is this what you always foresaw yourself as a kid growing up that you would be doing, or did you have another path
Do you
planned?
know, it's a strange one because it's kind of connected, but I went on my first plane, my first aeroplane when I was 4. And I
Right.
remember and saying to my mum at the time, that's what I want to be. And I wanted to be cabin crew. I was
Brilliant.
pointing to the cabin crew and I was
Yeah.
like, that's what I want to be. Because I had this vision in my mind that I think I just always wanted to see the world. I always wanted to
Great.
travel, and it was the travel really,
Yeah.
because I did try the cabin crew thing
Yeah.
pre-event. I think I was 19, 20, so like many, many years ago. And it wasn't, as you can imagine, what I expected it to be.
Yes.
It wasn't quite the, you don't really get off the plane, you don't really get to see the world. But it was that kind of curiosity for
Yeah.
getting out there and seeing the world. And so yeah, it was kind of connected, I would say. I think it sort of still led me somewhere along
Brilliant.
the same path.
Yeah. Often it's this is what I want to do. Right? It's finding the route, isn't it? It does that. And so over this last 4 years, what are some of the biggest issues as you've grown that you've had to overcome?
Um, I think, as I sort of alluded to before, figuring out what it takes to run a business.
Yeah.
So the business side, I mean, I know a lot of people that went into business because, they have business degrees or business experience and those kind of things. And I think really, like, just generally turning a passion into a business is more than just making it happen.
Yeah.
The business bit, the VAT, the tax, the accounting, all the legality stuff. We have something in our industry called TOMS, which we fall into. It's a tour operators margin scheme, which is how essentially we can only register for VAT in one country, but we operate in a number of countries.
Right.
So it's to do with reclaiming and not being able to reclaim VAT in different countries you work in. It's an absolute minefield, Chris.
Oh
Those
goodness. Yeah.
kinds of things.
Yeah. Oh my
Those
goodness.
kind of things that you kind of have to figure out. And yeah, the things that we didn't really think about before that I guess would be the difficulties, but you kind of overcome those. And I think one of the best things we could have done is the three of us done that together, because we kind of fell
Yeah.
into, right in the first year, really, we fell into sort of roles of the things that I guess we were better at or
Great.
liked doing or found like our groove within the first year or so. So I
Yeah.
think, Yeah, I'm not the numbers gal.
Right.
My colleague Katie is the numbers gal, so she likes to do that. I'm quite creative. I like to do a lot of the marketing stuff, and I do a lot of our proposals. And Natalie is our sales sort of lead in that direction.
Brilliant.
So yeah, we've sort of like we initially found a bit of a good groove so that
Yeah.
we could each, I guess, start to specialize in these kind of businessy things that we weren't expecting we would need to figure out so quickly.
Yeah, it's funny because there are, as you're right, there are more people studying business as a career, but there's still, I would say, well over 80, if not 90% of the people I speak to are basically people they're good at what they do, then go into a business at what they do.
Yeah,
And the fundamental challenge there is just because we're good at what we do doesn't directly make us good at running a business at what we do. We have to
yeah,
work hard at it and learn a
yeah,
whole bunch of other stuff. I guess that's the
definitely. And figuring out when I think it's the right time to hire someone to help you to do that as well.
yes,
I think like so like what we've found as we've gone along is actually we don't know everything, we can't know everything, but there are, there are great people out there that do. So sort of pulling on, that support and
yes.
bringing in the right people and the right kind of mentors in that way to support with some of that stuff has been important for us.
It's fascinating. I mean, previous I mean, as I've been an action coach, business coach for nearly 20 years now, but before that, we grew a business. Four of us grew a business to 100 people and 12 million turnover. And it was only when I joined Action Coach that I realised how little I knew about business. In all
Mm,
honesty, there was a whole lot. We were good at what we did. We worked really hard, and there was a bit of luck going on. But
yeah,
suddenly realizing there was a structure, a process, there was some
yeah,
principles, and that's why that's why I love doing this, because it just, when you add the structure and the process and the principles to a business and people that are brilliant at what they do, you get consistency, you get structure for growth without as much stress as probably it's taken to get to where we are. So no, I'll
figure
tell you.
that out though.
Sorry.
You have to figure that out as you go along, really, don't you?
Yeah, it's a funny one. So what so far, as you say, yeah, I know you've had challenges. You've moved into different areas. What would you say the biggest learnings you have about running and growing your business in general?
Um, we often come up against like a bit of a chicken and an egg theory. Like if you we don't know until we try certain
Yeah,
things, like for example, we are in a period of growth at the moment with the business and we are expanding the business. Um, as we do that, we're thinking about, different ways to maybe market the business and different strategies of different avenues that we're going down to speak to clients and different sales strategies, those kind of things. And even with doing some development in the past 2 years, we've done some development on our website. The kind of things that you don't know until you try, like you
yeah,
actually, you know, you don't know how much time, effort, budget to put to these things. You know what I mean? So it's
yeah,
kind of we often say to each other in our strategy meetings, we don't know till we know. Like you don't, we kind of
absolutely.
we kind of just have to give things a shot, and that's really what we're starting to do. And I think
Brilliant.
that is a bit of a challenge learning. That's where we are now, I guess, because like I say, we are trying different things, and it's difficult to know what's going to work because I think industries require different strategies,
Yeah,
and we work across the different in industries as well. Lots of event providers might just specialize in construction events or specific ones, and we don't really, because our experience between the three of us is quite broad.
brilliant.
um so yeah, I think just kind of navigating that, giving things a shot, and that's sort of where we are right now. As we obviously we have a strategy that runs underneath that, but there's a few things that we are doing a bit of a trial and error in.
Yeah,
For example, my two business partners are at the PA show today in London. Obviously PAs run a lot of events, so we're sort of giving
right.
that a shot as a sponsor, and we're going to the event and we're going to have some hopefully great conversations with
Brilliant.
one of our target audience. So that's kind of, I guess, a bit of a learning as to where we are at the moment.
It's a great word, actually. Try it. See, it's a good coaching word, because the challenge is we the human condition tends to fear the unknown, and
Yeah.
that creates a fear of, if we try it and fail, that's a problem. We tend to assume things will fail. We tend to assume the negative positive, which can create inaction and procrastination.
Yeah.
But the word "try" just means let's give it a go. Let's,
Yeah.
we're not changing course permanently. We're going to try this and see what's next. And by doing so, it brings to my mind our founder, Brad Sugars. He said to me a long time ago that he's a very, very successful man, and he said he told me that he was as successful as he was because he'd made more mistakes than anybody else he knew. Not despite, but
Totally.
it
How
was
else do
the
you learn?
exactly, it was the willingness to try stuff on the
Mm.
basis that some of it wouldn't work, but helped him accelerate his learning and therefore his success. So it's a great word to use. It's a great attitude to have. So
I
that's
think you
wonderful.
have to be a bit fearless as well, don't you? And I think sometimes that sort of, as we are planners, like by nature, like that sort of control of the situation often creeps in, and you're like, oh, but what if this, what if that? And we are now doing a lot more of trial and error stuff, because to be honest, that's the same attitude as we had when we started the business. Like, what have we got to lose? So yeah, I think,
Yeah.
like you say, you only gain more by trying and failing than by not trying at all, I think.
Absolutely, and there are very, very few successful success stories that didn't come with a bunch of failure.
Yeah.
It's very few. And in all honesty, if somebody's never failed, I would back, their level of learning is a fraction of somebody that has failed a number of times.
Yeah.
I'm not sure a history of failure is always the best thing, but having a few of those things is quite useful.
A little bit.
And I think, we're a business coaching organisation, so I'm keen to know who the best coaches are you've worked with, whether that's business, sport, life in general. Who the people have had the biggest influence on you?
Um, Me personally, I'm working with a coach at the moment, actually,
Great.
life slash business, a bit of both. She's an amazing woman called Jackie Rainford, and I was introduced to her actually at that pivotal time when I
Yeah,
was made redundant and was a bit like, who am I now? What should I be when I grow up at age
yeah,
30? I was like, do you know what I mean? Sort of like not really sure which way to go in. So I was introduced to Jackie and just had a really great, I think the important thing when you're looking for a coach, especially personally and in business, is to like find someone that you have a connection with,
yeah,
because I think everything else like comes later. Like,
yeah.
you have to really have like a good conversation and share some values and all of those kind of things. And I just got that from her like right away, and have been
Brilliant.
working with her and a lot more recently as well. So she's been and actually I've met her 4 years ago, but only virtually, and actually met her in person a couple of months ago.
Oh, there we go.
So
Interesting.
she's been a great mentor for me, and actually worked through a lot of I guess some of that self-development stuff that gave me personally the confidence to say yes to moving forward with the business,
Right.
and maybe I could do that, and why can't I, and all of those kind of things. So I think from a personal perspective, yeah, Jackie's had a real influence on me, on my life.
Brilliant.
From a business perspective, Katie's one of my business partners, Katie, her uncle Ian is a business coach. He's retired now, actually, and we have a session with him in 3 or 4 weeks. So
Brilliant.
yeah, it's good, I think, to get some external like thoughts on, especially when you're in a period of growth, like this is what we're thinking, get some input from the outside looking in, because I think you can often be quite too within stuff to hold a
Yeah.
mirror up against it. So yeah, we are very open to sort of taking on that,
Yeah.
mentor feedback sort of model, and are working on that.
Brilliant. It's so important. It's so difficult to see our own situations.
Yeah.
However knowledgeable. I mean, that's why I have my own coach, because it's like I've been doing this quite a long time, but I still can't do this for myself.
Yeah, of
Because
course.
what I see is what I see. Whereas if somebody else comes in and says, "Well, have you looked at it from this perspective?" All of a sudden, it can radically change
Yeah.
how we perceive things. So, and through any of the work you've done, do you find yourself using any favourite quotes or sayings about business or success or life in general?
Oh, quotes or sayings. It's funny actually because we did an event a couple of weeks ago and we asked all of our delegates for their favourite quotes and
Oh,
sayings.
brilliant!
So I've got quite a few. Yeah, we're very like one of our things in the business is we like to add the BeSure fairy dust. So we ask for personal information from people so that we can then like
Great,
in, do some personalized touches, and we wrote the quotes on the mirrors in the bedrooms as they arrived at the event. So
oh,
I've
lovely.
got quite a few that are springing to mind, but I think my personal favorite one is to find joy in the little things. So for me, I think you can look at you can get quite overwhelmed when you look at something so big, and you can look maybe too far in advance or too vast. And I think bringing it back to like the little things, even like a small like a tiny thing in your morning routine, or like taking a minute to have a proper sip of your first coffee in the morning. I feel like they're the kinds of things that really set up a successful day, because
Yeah,
you can work all year towards a 2-week holiday maybe or whatever, but that's a drop in the ocean of your 365 days. And I think hopefully we're on this earth for a long period of time, and I think finding joy in the little things is a more consistent, like, whole approach of hanging on to something every single day that like is just,
100%.
even when it gets hard, because obviously like when it rains it might pour, like but you may still be able to go for that half an hour morning walk
Yeah,
regardless of whatever happens, or those little. So I think that that's, and actually since COVID, I think COVID and obviously starting the business had a massive change on my life and lifestyle, because I think everybody took a stop. So it gave us all like the time to evaluate what's important. And for me, it was that sort of, you know, pause of, I want to be outside for a bit during the day.
yeah,
I don't want to wake up and go straight into my work. Like I am more valuable to myself and therefore
yeah,
others when I'm a bit fuller on my own cup. So yeah, sort of figuring
absolutely.
that out. I think that's not really a very short quote because I gave you a long
No, no,
explanation.
no. The quote was good. The quote's good. I mean, it's something we do a lot of in what we do is getting people to celebrate more.
Yeah,
And one of the things we do in any meeting, our structure includes the last thing in the meeting is we have S for success. So anything, and if you haven't got a big one, just find a little one. It doesn't,
yeah,
I survived last week. That's a success. It's because and especially for what I found is entrepreneurial people especially spend most of their time looking at what they haven't achieved yet rather than what they
yeah,
have.
yeah.
And if we don't consistently celebrate what we have achieved and as you said, the smaller stuff, then resilience is built for me on celebrating success and reminding ourselves that we're doing a good job. Because when it gets
It's
a bit,
easy,
sorry,
totally. It's easy to let that pass by, isn't it? Like I think it is important to celebrate even the little wins, the big wins, obviously, but even the little ones that you just kind of could easily forget, and you
absolutely,
may go into that sort of thought of, oh, I've not done enough, when actually like I think a lot of like coaching and journaling and writing down all of maybe two things you've achieved today, those kind of things, there's a lot
absolutely,
in that, because the reflection on it does really make you go, oh, actually that day that I thought I didn't achieve anything, like I remember I did
absolutely.
whatever. So yeah,
We've got to build up that resilience because things likely will go wrong at certain times, and we need something to draw on at that point.
yeah.
So I think it's absolutely crucial. And Lucy, what would you say you've learned about yourself throughout your journey so far?
um I guess I'm capable of doing hard stuff. Like,
Great.
like you say, you build up that resilience, and you don't really like. You do have to look back to look forward sometimes and see like what you've achieved and take a bit of a pause. And I think that one of the things is, if I'd have gone back 4 or 5 years, I would have never have thought that I'd be, a successful business owner, growing and scaling a business to become, something that we could have never imagined in our wildest dreams. So I think, yeah, it is hard, it's difficult, but I feel like the thing that I have learned is that, even though imposter syndrome does creep in every now and again, like I've done some really difficult things, and yeah, I think it's important to sort of recognize that and go, oh, actually, like, yeah, I came through this or that, or whatever it was.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Again, it's that celebrating of look what I've done. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's so
yeah.
so important.
And it's hard. It's really hard because I think people like we often find it hard to talk about, to celebrate ourselves. Like I'll often be more confident in celebrating Katie or Natalie or the things that the business have done. And, if anyone goes, oh, well, you did this, and I'm like, oh, did I? Like, it can be difficult to like accept that. But I think you only become better at that by allowing that sort of, I always think if something feels uncomfortable, it's probably like the direction that you need to go in. Like if it
Well,
starts to feel a bit like, oh, I'm not sure, unsure of, go there, because there's more to be, there's space there, and there's more to be learned.
absolutely. It reminds me. I heard an interview with Stephen Bartlett,
Love him.
yeah, and he said something like he was talking about imposter syndrome,
Yeah.
and he said he loves imposter syndrome because it tells him he's in the right room, he's going to learn something.
Yeah.
Because we've
Yeah,
been,
I love
you know,
that.
so I think, I think those sorts of things are so key, and it's just accepting that, the biggest challenge we all have is the wrestling we have with our own minds and our own
Yeah.
fears and beliefs, not more than anything else, really. But yeah, well, no, absolutely. But we've got to keep building that, and outside of comfort zone is where we grow. So it's important to that. It's funny you were saying about talking about yourself. The challenge we have culturally, I think, is this idea of not blowing our own trumpet.
Yeah.
That is a don't blow trumpet. Luckily, a friend of mine told me many years ago, and he said, "Chris, if we don't blow our own trumpets, then a beautiful instrument might remain unplayed." So,
I've never heard that before.
have
That's
you
a
not
good
heard that before? You see, and
no.
therefore you have to. It's like, well, so I think we got it. Yeah, that's helped me because it's like, yeah, okay, that's fair enough. And I think it's just being off it. I think interestingly enough, I found it is it's disingenuous not to be comfortable with our own successes as much as our own challenges. There's like most people wouldn't say I'm all brilliant, but funnily enough, most people, very few people say I'm absolutely brilliant in everything, but a lot of people will be quite happy to say they're crap at most things. Whereas
Yeah.
neither's true, and it's like this is what I'm good at, this is what I'm not so good at.
It's funny, isn't it? It's that sort of societal thing, as if you're too
Yes,
far one way or too far the other. Like it's that succumbing to expectation sort of thing, isn't it? Whereas actually we're all different, and we're all
yes,
like good at some stuff and not so good at others.
yes,
And I think it can just be easier for us to go, well, here's all the things that I'm not good at.
yeah,
And like end up with a long list on this side, and then a really short list of the things that you're good at on the other side. I think it's you know it's more difficult to kind of balance those things out.
yeah.
And yeah, it's something that it's an ongoing process though, isn't it? And it's a lot
Really,
of accepting yourself, I think,
yeah,
really, and like who you are. And
yep,
I I honestly don't think that I started doing that until I turned 36 years ago. So I think you kind of have to have some of these experiences to, like you said about learning and go as you go along. Like you kind of have to have some of these experiences to sort of
yeah.
go along on the journey. And I think it's not an ending point. There's no end point. It's all about that, isn't it? Like that.
Consistent, yeah, just
Yeah.
development and change, but which is great because it's like if because the thing is, if you ever got there, there'd be nowhere else to go. Do you know what I mean? So
God.
we like the idea of, well, I'd love to play a day when I'm perfect, but like if you did, well, then what would you do then? It's like
Yeah.
that's an end.
That's why the big businessmen, the Richard Bransons of the world, have got there and then found something else and gone
Yes,
to something else. And they've
absolutely.
it's that kind of like when you get up to that level, it's like there's not enough. Like, there needs to
Yeah.
be a new goalpost or a new thing or whatever.
What's next? Yeah.
Yeah, because then it becomes like, oh, well, I'm there, and there's no the trumpet's actually not playing, and the fanfare's not,
Yeah.
it's maybe exactly how you wanted it to be or whatever. So I think, yeah, you kind of you'll end up extending that anyway, don't you?
Absolutely, and I think the other part of that, not specifically that, but it is important to know where we're headed because it reminds me of the one of Stephen Covey's quotes about climbing the ladder of success, and he always said, "There's no point climbing the ladder of success to find you put it up against the wrong wall."
Oh yeah, I've not heard that one either. I'm learning something today, Chris.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. But it's really true, because I think, again, culturally, we're sort of programmed to want certain things and
Yeah.
therefore we we um we adopt a view of success that we think we should adopt because other people would, or we think that is in line with other people. Whereas, being really or open and honest with ourselves about what success looks like for each of us often
Mhm.
means we're a lot closer to it than we think.
Mhm.
We really think about what success looks like, if that
Yeah.
makes so it's an interesting talking about the future. What does the future look like for you guys, and what challenges do you think you might face, if any?
I think as we grow, like generally as a business grows, there becomes different challenges. Like we sort of talked about at the beginning about like processes, and when you scale a business, those kind of things have to
Yes.
change. We have got our sort of model at the moment is we've got 2 staff that work for us full time, and then the events industry is a massive bank of freelancers.
Got you.
So
Yeah.
at the time where we started our business, the freelance industry boomed at the same time because
Yes.
there was a lot of, people that were
Yeah.
available. So we and a lot of other small event agencies pull on that bank of freelancers to help support us to deliver some of the bigger projects that we work on. I think as we grow and we scale, we just need to continue to think differently. Like the industry is changing. We keep saying we've never had a typical year in our 4 years because typical years pre-COVID and typical years after COVID are two very different things.
Yes. Yes.
So we had like the first 2 years real high, like, everybody had an event budget that they weren't spending. Nobody had met for a very
Yeah.
long time, and everyone had been, indoors and out of offices. So it was kind of like everyone's coming back, and maybe the challenges we had then are going to be different to the ones now and the ones in another 2 years' time. So I think the biggest challenge for us is to stay relevant, to keep
Yeah.
our eyes and ears open to what's going on, and to sort of remain transient, like open to change. We will sort of work to any of our clients' event briefs. Lots of them are at the moment very short lead and
Right.
very very sort of we want it to happen yesterday, which is absolutely fine. The things that we come up against are, like there's maybe not the pool of venues that we
Yes.
require that work, that
Yeah.
work on specific briefs, or there might not be the bedroom nights because, if we are looking at a great accessible city like Barcelona, so is everybody else.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's lots of different challenges depending on the event, the client, but for the business in general, I think the biggest thing for us to be aware of is to, sort of be reactive and able to change. And we use that word pivot at the start, but
Yeah.
it's a bit of a COVID word.
Yeah.
And sort of like move and change with it. Like we have a strategy for growth over the next 5 years. But we are kind of open to what that journey on that growth would look like. Like I say, we've got 2 staff that work for us now. I don't think any of us would ever envisage being a 50-person agency. I think, you know, maybe a 15-person agency that, you know, everybody is working with 3 or 4 individual clients, and we can really tailor the event experience that we're giving the client. Like, I don't think we'll ever want to be a huge corporation where our clients become a number, because that's not really us. Like, we delivered events because of the connection, and we want to have that same connection with our clients as we want them to have with their delegates. So I think I wouldn't say challenges, but more like things to be like aware of.
Yeah, that's the key thing, is looking for what could go wrong and then mitigate it before it happens. I think that's the key thing.
Risk assessing.
Absolutely. Yeah, bang on. And often we don't. You know, it's really weird. You know, we just, again, it's that head down focus, head down sort of focus on the now, and not just put a head up every now and again and just saying, well, what could be coming up? You know, and so I think that's really sensible. And I'm keen to notice what you would say to anyone that was thinking of going into business right now.
I think it's Nike, isn't it? Just do it.
Great.
I would just, I feel like we can think ourselves out of so many things.
Yes.
And if I thought about launching this business too much, I probably would have been too scared to do it. So I would just say,
brilliant.
You know, find a person or a couple of people that you really connect with and that you trust to do it with, because I think it could be quite difficult. I know lots of entrepreneurs do it on their own, but you do really need, if not a network of like-minded industry people with you, like another couple of directors or founders to maybe go on that journey with you, because it's, you know, it is tough, and it's good to have other people to bounce those, you know, ideas, issues, everything else off of.
Brilliant. And finally, what would be the best advice you'd give an 18-year-old you if you could go back in time and do so?
Oh gosh, 18. I would say get out there, travel the world. Again, just go and do it. Like,
brilliant.
I think I grew up in a very small village in Derbyshire, and when I left to go to university, it was like I'd just put a pair of glasses on and I was seeing the world for the first time, going into a big city. So I would say, I don't really know what confidence like gave me the little push at the back of me to go and do that, actually. But on the first day of university, I met my husband, so that was obviously meant to happen.
Wonderful.
So I'd say, get out there in the world, travel, and believe in myself, because actually, like, I'm sort of now coming to realize that, like I said before, you can do the hard stuff. You just kind of have to get out of your own head sometimes to be able to give yourself that little nudge, and, you know, have that network around you to help that nudge as well, because I have a lot of great people that are around me, family, friends, and in the business. So
brilliant. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time today. It's been really fascinating, and
thanks for having me.
It's been great. And if anyone that was watching would like to get in touch with you or BeSure Events, what would be the best way to do that?
So we are on LinkedIn and Instagram at BeSure Events, and our email address is hello@besureevents.co.uk. Like I said at the start, we've just done some work on our website. So we've got all of our links are on there, www.besureevents.co.uk. So you can see a bit of some of our events and some of our work in action on the videos on there too.
Brilliant. Oh, wonderful. Brilliant. Thank you so much. Well, look, it'd be great to swing by again another 6-12 months to just see what the next stage of
that'd be
development
great.
is. But for now, thank you so much.
Thanks, Chris.